All right, I need you guys to pull your phones out of your pocket. We're not going all in because most of you guys are all in already. But I need everyone to pull their phone out of your pocket if you've got one. Including Brandon and Kaylin in the front. I'm gonna call everyone who's on the phone. Okay, so your phone is out, raise it above your head. I wanna see their phones. All right, now take it and I want you to flip it on and turn your flashlight on. Right here, and I wanna see them up in the air. Everybody's, all right. Oh, it's amazing. All right, now I wanna keep those on for a minute here. And while we're sitting here, as I'm looking out, I see, God, the coolest thing, all these lights, all these little dots, and every one of these dots out here is one of you guys. And I know that all of you came here with some kind of hope, some kind of dream, some kind of something you were trying to do, someone you were trying to serve, something you were trying to become. And all of these lights out here for me represent people whose lives you can change. And it's the cool, I wish you could all see this vision from my side right here. And the presentation I'm gonna give right now, like I said, is all about being one funnel away. And I want you for a second to think through this. Think about where you are right now in your business, in your life. I know that all of you guys are different points, different spots. And I want you to think for a second before we turn the lights back up, like, for you, what is that one funnel supposed to do? Is it the funnel that's gonna get you from a job you hate, from a life you're not excited with, and get you to be free? Are you already free and you're trying to figure out how can I serve more people? How can I serve? How can I get out there? How can I help more people? I want you to think about that for a minute. Like, what is that funnel for you? Okay, and I know that for every one of you guys, it's a different spot, a different place. And what I'm gonna do now for the next probably 45 minutes or so is I'm gonna share with you guys my journey. And some of you guys have heard pieces of it. I've shared lots of pieces throughout everything I do, but I've never had a chance to share the whole thing. And so that's what I'm gonna do right now. So thank you guys so much for doing that. We'll come down and turn the lights back on, and we'll get started now. Thank you. All right. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to go on a journey with you guys, my journey, which started way back over here on my timeline and my backstory. So those who know me or have heard about me or know anything about this, I got started, initially I started learning about business when I was a 12 or 13-year-old kid, sitting there with my dad. He was watching the news and I was watching it with him, and I was sitting there, I'm like, I can't believe he hasn't told me to go to bed yet. This is the coolest thing in the world. And the news was on, and then when the news ended, then MASH came on, and I was like, he must think I'm asleep or something. Like, he hasn't told me to go to bed. And I'm sitting there like trying not to move. I don't want him to know. And so I'm watching MASH with my dad. I thought it was the coolest thing in the whole world. And then when MASH got done, like, he still like didn't say anything. I'm like, he's got to be convinced I'm asleep. This is so cool. And then the next thing came on, and it was an infomercial, late night infomercial with Don the Pre. How many of you guys remember Don the Pre? Yes. Just an amazing person, and he had an infomercial, and I was so grateful for him and for his passion, his excitement, talking about what he was doing. And he was talking, the infomercial about how to place tiny little classified ads and you can make a fortune, right? And it was, God, it was the coolest thing. I remember sitting there listening to him, and I was like, this makes so much sense. I'm looking at my dad like, you paying attention to what's happening? Like, this guy is, the whole thing made so much sense to me. He said, I took a classified ad, I put it in a newspaper, and I made $30. And I told my friends and my family, like, I started a business, I made $30 this week, and they all laughed at me. He's like, so then I took that same ad and I ran it in 1,000 newspapers the next month, and I made $30,000. And I was just like, whew, mind blown. And I've been ruined from that day on when it came to the world. I'm like, I can't not do something like this. I was so excited. I saved a bunch of money, mowing lawns and everything, and eventually I bought Don the Priest kit on an infomercial. I read through it all, I learned it, and I wasn't able to actually do anything though because I didn't have money to do direct mail and all sorts of things like that. But that's how I first heard about direct response marketing. I remember after I got Don the Priest kit, I got so excited. I was at the grocery store with my mom one time, and we were walking out, and on the checkout stand there was a magazine. It was called Small Business Opportunity Magazine. Had a whole bunch of little cartoon people in front of it. How many of you guys have seen that magazine before? That's it? This is like the greatest like swipe file of direct response ads ever. So I didn't know at the time though, I was just like, there's like 30 things talking about how to get rich quick. And I'm like, sweet, I want to get rich quick. That'd be awesome. So I had my mom buy me this magazine. I went home, and if you look at it, it's like 140 pages of ads and 4 pages of articles. It's pretty awesome. And so I'm looking at every single ad, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can sell gold chains at the mall and make money. It's like, call this 1-800 number for free info kit. I'm like, yeah, free info kit sent to my house. And then like the next page, it's like something else. And page after page, all 140 pages, I called every single 800 number to request the free info kit. And about a week later, I started getting these gifts in the mail. First it was like 2 or 3 letters, then it was like 10 or 15 letters, then it was like 60 or 70 letters. And I think those people started selling my name to other mailing lists, because soon it became like hundreds of letters. And the mailman could not physically shove the junk mail in the mailbox anymore because there was so much coming in. So I'd get home from junior high, and I'd come home, and I'd walk into the house, and I see on the bar, I see 2 or 3 letters from my parents and Russell's stack of junk mail. And they're like, there's your junk mail. And I was like, oh, and I take it in my room, and I'd open it, and I'd like read these things. I'm like, this is so cool. And all these money-making ideas. So that happened at a young age. Unfortunately, again, I couldn't do anything. Well, I tried once. So this one person convinced me that like direct mail was the key. And like, all you do is you get a list of buyers who bought similar products, and you write a sales letter and you mail it to those people, and a percentage will buy. And I'm like, awesome. Only problem is I can't afford a mailing list. And I don't have any stamps or any envelopes or anything. And so I'd done something, I'd made a little bit of money doing some chores, and I asked my mom to go take that money and instead buy stamps and bring me home stamps. So she brought me home 38 stamps. That's how much money I had made. And I had 38 stamps, and I was like, this is so awesome. I used to tell my brothers and sister and parents always used to tease, well, not my parents didn't tease me, my brothers and my sister did, because I'd always like, I'm gonna be a millionaire any minute now. And like, this is gonna work. And they used to be like, oh, are you a millionaire yet? Oh, and like totally make fun of me, right? So I had these 38 stamps. I'm like, okay, if I can get 10% of these people to buy, that's 3 people. If I sell a $50 product, it's $150. I was like, God, like, I'll be rich. So I didn't know what to do. And so they talked about sales letters. And so I was like, I write sales letters. I printed it out on blue paper. So I made blue paper to be more likely to read. So I went on my parents' computer. I wrote a little sales letter. I printed out 38 copies of it. And I couldn't afford an envelope, so I just folded it and stapled it. And then I didn't actually have a mailing list, so I just opened the white pages and flipped through and randomly picked 38 names. I'm like, this is gonna be huge. So I wrote it, put my stamp on, and all my savings, put in the mailbox, and I was just like, I am gonna be rich. This is gonna be amazing. I sent it out, told everybody, like, when this comes back, it's over. Like, I'll be able to move out, have my own house. It's gonna be amazing. And unfortunately, nobody responded. So that was the only time I was able to invest. I didn't have the money to even buy a classified ad in a newspaper. So I just kind of, after that, I just kept reading all this junk mail and learning from all these people. And then a couple years later, I got into wrestling, and I kind of forgot about making money. But there was a seed that had been planted. So I wrestled through high school, had a lot of fun, got a college scholarship. I wrestled through college. And when I was going to college, met my insanely beautiful wife, who most of you guys, if not, she's right here hiding. So... and met her and fell in love really, really quick. And I spent the next like 3 or 4 months trying to convince her. In fact, it was probably the hardest sell I ever had, to convince her that I was the right one. And luckily, she said, "Do you see that picture?" I was kind of a geek, not gonna lie. Anyway, convinced her to marry me, and it was amazing. And about the time we got engaged, I realized my dad said, "Well, when you get married, like I'm not gonna keep supporting you, like." That's when you become a real man, and you have to like, I'm like, what? But Dad, like I'm wrestling and they're covering my school, but he'd always send me money to pay for food and stuff. And he's like, no, like if you get married, like you're kind of on your own. Like, I'm like, crap, well, I want to get married, but I don't want to like grow up yet. Dang it. And my wife was, fiance at the time, wife now, she was working and she was making money, and then she got a second job to support us. And I was just like, wrestling, I'm like, I don't have any money. And so I'm like, well, I gotta do something. And then luckily, the greatest thing in the world happened. That happens to a lot of us. I was up late at night stressing out about this, and then this little thing popped up on TV. It was an infomercial. And it was this guy talking about how people are making money with these little websites, and that they were doing an event at Holiday Inn like the next day, and that you could come and get tickets to it. I'm like, oh, this is it. So I like call the number, get my tickets to Holiday Inn. I show up to Holiday Inn. It's like a little tiny room with like 50 really, really like desperate people sitting there. and I get in there, and there's a dude on stage who's all like in a suit and tie. And I'm like, whoa, that guy looks rich. And then he started doing his thing. And within like 5 minutes, he closed me on like this $50 thing. And so I ran the back, and I had my one credit card. I think I had like a $300 like credit, like that was it. That's all I had earned so far. So I bought my $50 thing. I ran back. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make so much money with this. And then he pitched just on a website, which was like $3,000. And I was like, oh, and everyone's running back buying websites. I'm like, oh, I can't afford a website, dang it. And they pitched website hosting at $80 a month and all these things. And so like, and then they're teaching me like, hey, if you call your bank, you can get your credit extended. I'm like, oh, sweet, I didn't know that. So I'm calling the bank like, hey, can you make my card $1,000? Like, learning all these things. And so getting my credit card bigger, and which was kind of cool. And then I bought everything he told, because I'm like, all right, I need the whole thing. So I buy it all. And he convinced me, he's like, PayPal's evil. He's like, you have to have a merchant account. There's $6,000 for merchant account. I'm like, I don't have $6,000 yet. He's like, well, you can't make money online without a merchant account. It's $6,000. And I'm like, but I couldn't afford that, but I had everything else. So then I went home, I was like, cool, I got a domain name, I got hosting, $1,000 worth of internet web stuff. And then we jumped online, and I was like, I'm gonna have a website. And I was getting excited. I started Googling some things, and eventually within about 15 minutes, I realized that website hosting is not $80 a month. I realized that the domain name is not like $1,000. I was like, oh crap. Like I got taken for all these, and then I was freaked out. And so I ended up calling the next day, and I was like, yeah, so my son is a minor, and he was at your event last night, and he charged all his credit cards, and he needs to be out of this contract. And they got me out of the contract and gave me my money back. So that's one trick if you ever need to get out of a contract. It's worked almost every time. So those are the real .com secrets. All right, so I got a contract, but at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, I just need to sell stuff on the internet. And so that started this thing about the time my wife and I were getting ready to get married, and I was trying to sell stuff, and I was selling all sorts of different things. I remember initially I thought maybe it's eBay, people make money on eBay, and I remember driving to the thrift store, buying everything that I could find that I thought was worth value, and then on my bike with grocery sacks full of crap, driving my bike back home, and I remember I bought a Michael Jackson record, so I'm like, dude, records are so old, this has got to be worth hundreds of dollars. I ended up selling it for 13 cents on eBay. I was so depressed. Anyway, and all these things, and I was boxing them, and I was shipping these things out, and when all was said and done, I think I made $40 or $50, but my costs were $150, $200, and it was I was going trying to find boxes to box all these weird things I bought, and it was just a horrible thing. And I'm sitting at the post office with 18 different boxes of weird things, records and all these things. And there's this dude standing there with a big, huge box full of CDs, hundreds and hundreds of CDs. And I'm here with a wheelbarrow full of odd boxes. I'm like, dude, what are you selling? He's like, oh, I sell information products. I was like, what does that mean? He's like, all these CDs have info burned on them. People pay me and I ship them a CD. I'm like, is it the same CD? He's like, yeah, I have a CD burner. I just burn them. And then I put them in these things and I send them out. I was like, are you kidding me? They're all the same size. I could buy one box and just it'd be so much easier. And so that's when we started talking about information products. And I was like, I didn't know that was even a thing. And so I got all excited about information products. And so I started Googling stuff and started learning about how information products. And I ended up finding this CD. It was a CD that had 8,000 coloring book pages for kids. And the guy was selling it. So I emailed him. I was like, dude, this CD's cool. I was like, can I buy the rights from the CD so I want to sell it? And he was like, I've never done that before, but sure, for $200, I'll sell you the rights and you can sell it too. I'm like, oh, sweet. So I gave him $200 I didn't have, and he gave me the rights. And he had the CD, and then basically all I do is I had to burn it on a CD burner, and I could mail it out as many times as I wanted. And he had a big, long sales letter he let me use, so I put his sales letter up, and I started trying things. And what was cool is I started making sales. Not a lot, every other week we make a sale for $20. And then I'd go burn a CD, and I put it in an envelope, and I ship it out. And I was just like, this is so cool. Information products became the thing, and I was trying to figure out how that whole thing worked. And that's why I started bumping into people like Yannick Silver and all these different internet marketing gurus and watching what they were doing selling information products. And I was just hooked at that point. And about that time, I started watching what they were doing and started learning. And I started creating different things that my flashlight's still on. Sorry about that. And I started creating things. In fact, one of my very first products ever, does anybody in this room remember the product Zip Brander? Yeah, 3 people. VJ does. So I had all these info products, and I was buying resale rights to other people's products, and I was selling these things. And I remember I was like, wouldn't it be cool if there was a way where when I sent this file, this digital file to somebody, if when they first open it, instead of just getting the file, they would see an ad for my product, and then they see the file. And I was like, that was my first light bulb. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, it's like zipping a file, but you'd zip it and they'd be branded, so when they open it, they'd see your ad first. I was like, this is I thought it was it. That is my idea. This is gonna change the world as we know it, right? And so I bought zipbrander.com, and I remember Armin Morin at the time was one of the guys I was studying, and I was just like, Armin is so cool. Every one of his sites looked very similar. They were so cool. And I'm looking, and Armin's site, he had a big header graphic with his picture, his arm folded with a suit coat on. I was like, oh, dude, that's what I need. So I got a picture of me folding my arms in a suit coat, and he had this header, and so I had a header looked just like his. His was always e-cover generator, and so I was like zip brand, looked like identical. And then this is where like my funnel hacking started. So he had this big long sales letter. I'm like, that looks weird, but Armin's doing it, so I'm gonna do it. So like I looked at his sales letter, I wrote my own based on that. And then I was like, how do I create this? I didn't know that. And so my first thought is like, oh, well, I should just become a computer engineer. Like that'd be the coolest thing. Like I wanna make software. So I switched my major to like computer information systems so I could learn how to code, right? It was about the time the semester was changing. So I get to class the first day, and teacher gets up there and starts talking about code and like databases and all these things, structures. And I was sitting there like, oh crap. Like, I have no idea what he's talking about, like not even a little bit. And within about 15 seconds, I realized that I'm not a coder and never will be a coder. Couldn't even understand. I thought like I was a Spanish class or something, and I'm just like, I don't even know what he's saying. But I didn't know how to change my major again, and I kind of was, so I just kind of stayed in it. And in a little while, I kind of got depressed. I'm like, well, that was my one idea. Like, I guess I can't do it. And then I remember I was listening to a teleseminar. I was on a wrestling tournament. We were driving to California. It was like a 16-hour drive. And I downloaded on it was pre-iPods. It was like this little tape player thing, a whole bunch of teleseminars Armin had done. And I'm listening to these things in the back of the car where all the other wrestlers are like partying and having fun and like listening to music. And I was listening to these seminars, and they were totally making fun of me the whole, like if you meet any of the wrestling buddies, like they relentlessly made fun of me the entire trip. Like, you're such a nerd, like you're never gonna make any money. I'm like, no, I swear I will. So I'm listening to these things the whole way, and in one of these things, like 22 hours into this thing I'm listening to, Armin says like, yeah, I don't code software. I go to this, at the time it was called Scriptlance. I go to Scriptlance and I pay guys in Romania and India really like hardly anything to build stuff. And I was like, Armin's not a programmer? I thought he was a programmer. There are people in India that can do this? So I went to, like literally that night, jump on Scriptlance, and actually prior to that, I tried to hire a company to do it, and they quoted me like $5,000. I was like, okay, well, I don't have that. And so I took the same description I'd given these guys, and I posted it on Scriptlance, and instantly I got all these people started bidding on it. One guy was like, I'll do it for 5,000, I'll do it for 2,000, for 1,000, for 500, and it came down all the way down to this guy named Cyprian in Romania said, I'll do it for 20 bucks. I was like, I got 20 bucks. So I picked him, and he's like, all right, so this is how I'm gonna do it. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but just do it. So he did, like, spent like 2 or 3 days, sends it back. He's like, here it is. So I tried it, and I like zipped a file, and I opened it, and my ad showed up. And I was like, you did it! Oh my gosh! And he's like, yeah, thanks for the 20 bucks. And I was like, no, this is gonna be huge. Like, I'm gonna make millions of dollars. I feel guilty giving you $20. Can I pay you an extra 100? And he was like, yeah. So I gave him $100, and I felt good about it. And that was my very first software product I ever did. And it didn't make me millions. I probably made, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 grand with that product. But it was the first one I had. I had a sales letter, started driving traffic. I was doing Google ads. I was finding JV partners, all these things. And I started selling it. And that was like the first thing that actually made me any money. Is that exciting? How many of you guys want ZipRander? The first 30 people in the back, just kidding. No, okay, it doesn't work anymore. The coding all stopped working like 10 internets ago, so it's done. But that was my first software product. It was so cool. About that time is when I started learning about, more about info products. That's when the Potato Gun came out, Potato Gun DVD, all these things. And I was just doing all these little businesses, and none of them were like huge, smashing, like $1 million successes. I didn't pull Dan Henry and read a book and 5 months later made $1 million. Like, I was like, hey, I made $5 grand here. Oh, I made $200 here. Oh, and these little things kept happening, and it was so cool. And every project did a little bit better. It was like kind of this like slow momentum. Like everyone did a little bit better than the last one because I got more customers were coming in and more people, and I kept just making things in different markets, potato guns and just all these sorts of different things. And each one got a little bit better, and it was just fun. And I remember back then I started doing teleseminars, and I was like, I'd get like 30 people online, and I'd talk about something, and I'd sell it at the end, and some people would go buy it, and it was so exciting. And that was like the start of this whole thing for me. And then one of my friends, BJ, who's sitting over here, he was a wrestler in Nebraska, and I wrestled at Boise State. It was our senior year. And my senior year, I'd made pretty good money, probably $150,000, $200,000, somewhere in there, my senior year. And he had heard about it. And so Boise State was wrestling Nebraska, and we're sitting there wrestling, and we're glaring at each other because we're opposite teams. And afterwards, he's like, hey, man, so someone told me you're making money. Is that true? And I was like, yeah. He's like, how you doing it? How you doing it? And so we kind of talked about it a little bit, and then we flew back to our places, figuring out college, and we kind of talked back and forth for a little while. And then after college got in, he's like, hey man, I want to do what you're doing. Can I get a job? And I was like, you want a job? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, what would you do all day? He's like, I don't know, I'll do what you're doing. I'm like, okay. And can we talk about marketing stuff? He's like, oh, I love to talk about it. I'm like, that'd be so cool. I have nobody to talk about this stuff. Like, I thought it was just me. I was like, so you're actually interested in this thing? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Yeah, man, I'll give you a job. So come on out. So he's like, all right. So he jumps in the plane, flies to Boise, and moves like literally into our office, slept in our office for like 6 months. And he gets there and he's like, okay, so how does this work? I'd never really had an employee before. I'm like, I don't really know either. I'll pay you, and we can talk about marketing, then we'll sell stuff, and it'll be awesome. Now, me as an entrepreneur, I was in this mode of like, eat what you kill. Like, I'd sell something, make a bunch of money, and I was like, sweet. And then we wouldn't do anything for like 4 or 5 months, and we'd create something, sell it, make a bunch of money, and then that's kind of the model that I was on for a long time, right? And then BJ came in, he wanted to be an employee, and I was like so excited. I'm like, sure. And so he's an employee, and then the weirdest thing happened is every 2 weeks, he wanted to get paid, whether we made money or not. Like, I'd never heard that, but I was like, oh, okay, so here's some more money. And then 2 weeks later, more money. I'm like, oh crap, we haven't sold anything for like a long time. And so then, and then he had some other friends that came along that were like, this is cool, I want to work for you too. I'm like, all right, come on over, man, let's get jobs. So I gave them jobs, one of his buddies and his wife, and then some other people. And soon I was like, I got all these friends that want to talk about marketing with me. This is so fun. And so we had all these people coming over. And then, but the problem was that like every 2 weeks they wanted to get paid. And so, but we weren't selling anything. So I'd go lock myself in the back room. And I'm like, don't bug me, you guys. I got to make money so we can all hang out again. So I closed the door and I start working, and I'd be working and I'd be selling stuff. And then they'd be out there like, dude, can we help you? I'm like, shut up. If you talk to me, I can't make money to pay you. So just like go away. And they're like, we really feel bad. Like, we want to help you, Russell. I'm like, I don't have time to train you because otherwise we can't make money to pay payroll. And so they just kind of, and that was like this thing. And what's interesting is this is one of my first lessons as an entrepreneur that was tough, right? And so I had 5 or 6 people at the time. We hired this video guy that was, there's so many side stories. I can't tell you all of them. He was an Indian guy who had shorts went up to here, and he had a braid that went past his shorts. Because he told me in an interview, he's like, yeah, I'm a video guy. I'm like, are you kidding me? We could do videos. And he's like, yeah, I got all sorts of video stuff. So we hired him, and then turned out he didn't know anything about video at all. And but I didn't dare to fire him because I'd never fired anyone. I was so scared. And like every day we're like, I wish like he would just quit. But I don't know what dare to fire him. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, oh, it was just all these weird learning things, right? And so this went on for a while. I was launching something like every week, trying to make money to cover payroll, and it's just this huge thing, and it became like horribly not fun for a long time. And it kept going worse and worse and worse until the point where it was December. It was the beginning of December. It was freezing cold, and I was looking at everything, and like every penny I'd ever made was gone. Every idea I had for like how I could hustle and like sell things to different markets like was gone, and I was just like, just drained. Like, I don't even know what to do. And it was Christmas time. I was outside, and I started going to go hang up lights around my house. And I had this someone had sent me like an iPod Nano, and Stu McLaren had actually done an event. I don't know if Stu even knows this. And he had sent me the links to it. So I downloaded the links to this event on this iPod, plug it into my ears, and I started like hanging up Christmas lights, which I had never done before. It's a horrible job. Turns out you can hire people for really cheap to do that. And the lights look really straight. Mine were like it was really bad. And I kept stapling through the wire, which would then kill the lights, and it was bad. And my fingers were so numb. I had this little light coat on. I remember like, God, my fingers were so numb, and I had to have my gloves off to be able to like squeeze the thing. And so like, I put them back in and get warm, and then I'd go back in, and I didn't really want to go inside and get warm because I was so depressed, because I knew that like the next payroll was coming up in like a week or so, and I was like, I don't have money. Like, I don't know what to do. And like tomorrow I need to go in and tell these guys, otherwise they're gonna like, it's gonna be really awkward when payroll does come, and I'm like, oh, sorry guys. So I'm like, tomorrow I have to go tell everybody this. And so I stayed outside in the cold because I didn't want to go in. And I just was trying to think. And so I'm stapling these Christmas lights around the house. So I'm listening to this audio. And in the audio, there's 2 different speakers talking about different business models. Back then, none of us called these things funnels, but they talked about these different business models, what they were doing. And one of them was an offline guy. His name is John All, and some of you guys have heard me talk about him. He's the guy that taught me about attractive character. And he said, he's like, I have this thing that I've been doing where I create these CDs, and then I tell everyone it's so controversial that I can't put it on the internet, which is like the funniest thing ever. And he's like, so because of that, you got to pay me $5 that I will ship you the CD. And then he said, what happens is that I ship them the CD, but then that customer financed me sending them a sales letter. And I was like, dude, that is like brilliant. I'm like, we got to do that. And I remember I'd filmed the CD like 2 years earlier, or a DVD, and I was like, we could do that. We could burn that DVD and we could start sending that out. So that was the first presentation was John Ollins's. The next presentation was this guy named Matt Basak, who's become a close friend since then. And Matt was talking about his business model. He said, what I do is I send out CDs, and the people that buy the CDs, I call them on the phone, and we sell them coaching. And I was like, you can call people on the phone? Like I'm an internet nerd, but I'm like, wait, you pick people, like, and I was super scared, but I knew that there was a guy that worked for me at the time, one of those, my 5 or 6 friends who had sold things on the phone before. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, like, what if we figured out something we could do where we could like save this thing? Like, it might actually be possible. And I started getting more excited. I'm hanging up Christmas lights, I'm listening to stuff, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this plan, this like funnel was going through my head, and I'm like, okay, I think I figured out like a blend of what these two guys are saying could actually work. And so by the time I got to hang up Christmas lights, I texted all of them like, you guys, you don't know this yet, but we're about to go bankrupt, but I got an idea that I think can save it. Let's meet tomorrow morning early, and I'm gonna walk you guys through what I think could actually save this business. Send. And they're all like texting back like, what? Like, I know we're going through bankruptcy, like, oh yeah, we're about to. And luckily it's okay, let's all come in. So they all came in the next day, and I was like, you guys, I think I got a model. This is what we're gonna do. I was like, remember that DVD I did like 2 years ago? We're gonna take that, and it's gonna be a free DVD. It's gonna be so controversial, we can't sell on the internet. We'll charge, I think it was $4.95 shipping and handling. And we'll send this DVD out to them. And then inside the DVD, we're gonna have a sales letter where we're gonna sell a $5,000, actually it was $5,500. I don't know why we said that price, but it's gonna be $5,500. And they're like, cool, what do we sell $5,500? I'm like, I don't know, what do you guys wanna sell? I'm like, okay, so then we had our whiteboard, and on our whiteboard, we're like, well, if someone's gonna give us $5,500, like, we'd have to be something amazing. Like, what if we did this? And we're like, and we listed down, what if we did that? And we made this huge list for like 2 hours of like all the amazingness. And I was like, that would be awesome. But I'm not willing to do half of that stuff. So, okay, we're not gonna have them sleep in my house. We're not gonna have them do it. And we kind of crossed out all these things, right? Okay, and we're like, okay, I'd actually be willing to sell this. I think people would actually buy that. Like, that would be insane. And so we took that, and then at the same time we added a newsletter. So if somebody bought the CD, they joined a newsletter that was $37 a month. So they came from here and they joined a newsletter. It was $37 a month. And that was the funnel. Now back then we didn't have ClickFunnels, so luckily we had 1 or 2 nerds still working for us who were able to kind of put these pieces together. And we had this really rudimentary, like horrible looking funnel, but it was live within a day. And we said, okay, let's try it. And at the time I had a little tiny email list. This is pre-Facebook, it was back MySpace days. So it was back then. We pushed some traffic to this, and we ended up selling a couple hundred of these CDs. And then in the CD, we shipped out to them. Inside there came a sales letter talking about this. And then it put people on a continuity program. And then we called everybody about the CD and said, hey, you bought the CD. How would you like to come to Boise? And we're going to give you this. And this was our Hail Mary pass. Like, please let this work. And so we did that. We focused on it. We drove traffic to it. And when all was said and done, over the next like 2-week period of time, we got 800 people to get our free CD. From that, the way we used to do is everybody was on continuity. So we had 800 people that were on this $37 a month continuity, but it was free for a month, so we wouldn't make any money here. But we had 800 people's phone numbers who we were able to call. And so we started calling them. And we didn't know anything about phone sales or anything. We were just like, hey man, you bought the CD, you wanna come and hang out with Russell? And they're like, yeah. And in that 2-week period of time, we sold 10 people at $5,500 a piece, which ended up being $55K. And that funnel saved Christmas. Is that awesome? It was awesome. I was able to pay all of our payroll. We had some money left over. It was awesome. And the coolest thing is 30 days later, then this started, and all these people were on continuity, and suddenly we had a business. This is when I learned the power of continuity. David Fry, who's one of my favorite people in the whole world, he's in the audience here somewhere, I think. He used to always say, he's like, until you have continuity, you don't have a business. And I never understood that till this. There's David smiling over there. I love that guy. And now I found out how suddenly I had these people. And then, so what happened, I don't know the math, 800 times 37 a month, it's like $25K a month. And we knew like, we have continuity now. Every single month we have $25K, and that means I can pay for employees. I realized like, you don't hire employees before you have continuity. But now we have continuity. Now we actually had people covered, and we could actually focus and think. And that was the first funnel that really kind of saved things and turned it around for us. Now, the pros and the cons of this. The pros is this was really, really awesome. And I was like, as getting a good entrepreneur, I'm like, hey, what's the book? Nail it and then scale it. Like we nailed it. We're like, hey, let's scale this thing. And so then, I probably shouldn't have done some of this stuff, but we got excited. I was like, well, if this worked here, we should hire more people. And we started growing this, and we went from this little thing with 5 or 6 of us to 2 years later, we had about 100 people. operation where this is the model we were doing. CDs, calling them on the phone, selling coaching, having continuity, and it grew really, really big. And during that time, there were some really positive things that came from it, some negative things, some ups and some downs, and I'll share kind of a lot of those things. One cool thing is that while this was happening, and it was going really well, my name kind of got out there, so I got a chance to go speak a lot, which was cool, and I had seen other people speaking from stage. And this is where, I've told you guys a story, anyone who's gone through the Perfect Webinar, like I spent about 2.5, 3 years on the road, going to seminars, standing in front of a bunch of people like this, talking and trying to sell something, and then nothing happening. It was a really horrible feeling. Anyone ever done that before? My first presentation, I was on stage, I just probably had, 300 people in the room. I did a presentation, I tried to like do what speakers do and like close, and then hopefully everyone runs to the back and like nobody budged. And then the guy forgot to turn the music on and it was just like crickets. And then I was just like awkwardly like walking off the stage. Oh, this is awkward. And then running, you know. And then I remember I was so embarrassed because usually like when you have like those events where all like multi-speaker events and all the speakers are selling and everyone's bragging about their numbers and I knew that I don't want them to ask me my numbers because I totally didn't, like not one person signed up. So I went and hid in my hotel room and I remember ordering coconut shrimp and Haagen-Dazs ice cream for every meal for the next 2 days while I hid in the room, eating it, watching movies. So I'm like, I'm not going back downstairs. And it was really bad and awesome at the same time because coconut shrimp and Haagen-Dazs is awesome. But I did that and I learned like how not to sell. And then I started learning from some amazing speakers and people. And I started learning the process and how it works. And all the stuff we talked about in the Perfect Webinar, all this stuff we talked about day one about creating belief and breaking belief pattern, all those kind of things I learned like on the road in front of people on stage. Like it was scary, but it's such a good time for me to learn it and understand that part of the process. As we started to grow, and make sure I cover all the cool things, we had a bunch of different offers we came out with. One of the ones that was more successful for us was a front-end offer like this called micro continuity. How many of you guys remember micro continuity? Yeah, that is awesome. So this is one it's probably, I don't know, 8 years ago now. We put it on an MP3 player from Hong Kong. It had like 6 hours of this training, and that was a funnel we put through. And we just kept creating new front-end funnels to get people into this program, and it worked awesome. And we grew the company from nothing to $3 or $4 million a year, and it was doing awesome. And then at the time, I started looking at other people in my industry, and this is hopefully will help. One of you guys is going to get a good idea for this one. But I had this funnel. We talk about the value ladder, right? Like I had this really cool value ladder happening here. And I was ascending people up, and I realized that I was the only person in the market that had a real value ladder. Everyone else was kind of doing stuff down here, and that was it. And I was the only person selling really expensive stuff. So I started calling my friends. I called up like Mike Filson. I'm like, hey man, like, so all of our customers, we call them, we sell them like these $5,000 things, and lots of people buy that. Like, you should do that. He's like, I don't want a call center, and da da. I'm like, well, do you want us to call your customers and sell it? He's like, yeah. So we hooked up with Mike, and we became Mike's back end. I call it Frank Kern, same thing. We became Frank Kern's back end for a little while. We started calling up a whole bunch of people, and then we started becoming the back end. So all these people now had front end funnels, and we became the back end for a lot of them. And that's how we took the company from $3 or $4 million to $10 million, and it became really, really big. And I was going to say big and fun, but I don't think I would say that at all. It became really, really big. We had 100 employees, and we had 60 people on phones in a big, huge call center. We had 20 people doing coaching for all the things we were selling. And then we had about 20 people who were driving leads and customers and stuff like that. And it got really big. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like I'm really good at like selling and those things, really bad at like the management of stuff. And I was not good at managing all these people. And it kind of started just getting too big. And this is about the time that I was telling you guys, if you've read the .com Secrets book, that I started waking up and I was just like, God, I do not like what I created. I got so excited that I started building this thing. And then one day I woke up and I was like, I really want to do this? I think half of the conversations I have with inner circle members when they first come in is this, like, do you really want to build that business? Like, yes, that would work. But sometimes it's horrible when you get there. Like thinking through, like, what do I actually want to do? What do I really want to become? Who do I want to be when I grow up? And luckily during that time, it was probably one of the most painful times of my life. But looking back now, it was probably one of the most important times of my life. We had this huge operation, everything was working, and then one day, it was in January, literally 11:30 in the morning, one of my sales guys came in and said, hey, I'm trying to run a credit card, but it's not working. I'm not sure what's wrong. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Well, try one of the other merchant accounts. Maybe there's something there. And then someone else came in, hey, all the continuity orders are failing. I'm not sure why. And then the 3 or 4 people came to me. I'm like, what's happening? I logged in the back-end system, and like 11:37 or something like that, every sale stopped, just stopped, no sales. I was like, what is happening? And so I'm kind of freaking out. So I call our merchant account company, and there's a busy signal. I'm calling again, busy, calling, and busy, and like, I can't get hold of anybody. And all of a sudden, I start hearing from friends like, dude, everything got shut down. Like, are you still able to process? I'm like, no, like, what's happening? And everyone started, I don't know. And soon I found out that it wasn't me. It was like, I eventually found it was like 300 or 400 people at the same time. Anybody who was doing any kind of like continuity-based stuff, the merchant accounts basically came in and said, look, we think that what you're doing might be illegal, and so we're shutting all of you guys down, and you're basically guilty till proven innocent. I was like, what? I've got 100 people I'm feeding, 100 people and their families. Like, it turns into like hundreds of people. I was like, you can't stop processing. Finally, after like an hour, I get through to somebody, and the lady on the phone says, yep, we shut you down. Good luck ever getting a merchant account again. I gotta go. Boom, and hung up on me. And I was like, what? And at the time, I thought I had diversity. Like we had 9 merchant accounts all through one company, and so I thought that meant, but they were all through different merchant accounts, but all through one bank. And I found out that's the equivalent of having one, which is why I'm a big believer now in having multiple merchant accounts in multiple different banks, which is a lesson hopefully for everybody. If you don't know Alex Roy yet, I don't know if Alex is in here, but meet Alex, and he's the man who can get you hooked up with lots of merchant accounts. Like, he's done that for us. Yes, he's amazing. But it was bad. And so finally got a hold of these guys, and I'm trying to figure some things out, and basically said, okay, well, you got to prove that you are a good guy. I was like, okay, so we went through, took us 2 weeks for them to go through all of our stuff, look at our documentation, look at all our stuff. Basically 2 weeks, and they came back and said, okay, you're right, you're doing everything clean, everything's above board, we'll turn your merchant accounts back on, and you're good to go. I'm like, sweet. So we turn it back on, and at that time, like, when there's that kind of instability, like, sales guys are freaking out, they can't handle any kind of instability, and they're leaving like crazy, people walking out the door, and it's like, and I was like freaking out, and we had all this payroll, but no money coming in, and so like I'm paying it out of my own pocket, like everything just like keep things afloat. And as I'm going through this process, like it's getting scarier and scarier, and finally it's like, hey, merch accounts are back on, you're a good guy. I'm like, sweet. So hey guys, we got to do a launch really quick to make a bunch of money. So we do this, put together this huge launch thing, we push it out to our customer lists, and in a weekend, we made $250,000. And I was like, thank you. So great. I was like, Monday we should get the money, we can pay payroll. I'm telling everyone, like, just, tell your wives and your kids, we'll have money soon. Like, it's coming, I promise. Like, it's in the bank, it's just gonna be here any day now. And money didn't come, Monday didn't come, Tuesday didn't come, Wednesday didn't come. By Thursday, I'm like calling them, like, where's our money, dude? Like, we need this money. And then the guy looks at the account, oh, it's definitely in there. I'm like, okay, when's it coming to our bank? He's like, well, it's not gonna come to your bank. Like, well, why not? He said, oh, well, you're on 100% reserve, so we keep 100% of your money. I was like, dude, what? Like, that's not good for me or for anybody. How am I supposed to be in business? I got people to pay. He's like, yeah, well, that's just how it works. He's like, but the good news is that it looks like you are a legitimate company. No one's charging back or refunding this money we've collected so far. So what we'll do is we'll drop you down to 10% reserve. I'm like, oh, thank heavens. And then he said, but the $250,000 you collected in the last week, we're keeping that for the next 6 months just as collateral, make sure nothing bad happens. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, so I'm like, okay. Gotta create another funnel, quick. So we're printing another thing, we push it out there, make some money, and we start, paying payroll for whatever we can, but everything's collapsing around me. And so that started in January, and that started happening. At the same time, we're trying to find other merchant accounts, other banks, and all these other banks are like, oh yeah, we're cool, come in, we'll give you a merchant account. And they're like, okay, this is how it works. Like, you make $100,000 a month. I'm like, cool. Okay, we're gonna do that in like 2 days. So I need like 4 merchant accounts because this is like, we can make money. We just need you to be able to like give it to us after we make it. And like, oh yeah, we're cool. We're good at that. Don't worry. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we get a merchant account, get it all set up, drove a bunch of traffic, and twice we made over the $100,000 a month we were allowed within like a day and a half. And then they froze our accounts and they said, oh, you made too much money too fast. We're freezing your accounts. We'll get this money back to you in 6 months. I'm like, 6 months? Like, please stop doing this to me. Like, we ended up with like $400,000 or $500,000 locked up in merchant accounts, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So this whole year was like the hardest year of my life, and it just kept going down. And like every single day, I'm like laying off friends and family members and people whose families I love, like people that I just love and I care about. And I'm coming in, I'm like, I don't know what to do, man. I'm so sorry. Like, I gotta let you go. And and it was just like such a dark time in my life, and just over thing after thing after thing. And I wish that I could say from there it got better. So that was an entire year. The next January started, and one of our friends was doing an event in Vegas, and I was like, I'm gonna go out there and just see what everybody else, like, I gotta refigure out my whole business. Like, everything's completely collapsed. At the time, by the way, we were in this big, huge office we had rented, and that we were leasing. And I think it was like 20,000 square feet because we had all the call center and stuff. And I went to the landlord. I'm like, hey man, like I can't afford to pay you anymore. And he's like, okay, well we've got a 3-year contract. If you don't pay me, I'm gonna sue you and you're probably gonna end up in jail. I was like, are you kidding me, dude? Like I'm trying, like would not work with me at all. I had all this fear behind that. So I'm in Vegas a year later, trying to ask friends like what's happening, like what are you guys doing in your business? And they're trying to tell me their stories. I'm just like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then that night I got an email on my phone from my dad. And I opened this email and it was like a shot in the gut, like probably the worst second of my life as I read that. And the email said, hey Russell, I'm so sorry. My dad was helping the books at the time, but we had a bookkeeper in the office. And he said, and the bookkeeper, I mean, she was trying her best, but she didn't know. She knew we were struggling and she didn't want to stress me out, so she didn't tell me how much we were struggling. And turns out what she'd been doing is she had been paying the bills she could, and then the ones she couldn't, she was trying to like not pay him and delay him. And to hide it from my dad and from everybody else, she was saying in QuickBooks like she paid bills, but then like not actually paying them. So it looked like it was clear. And he had gone through and actually audited and found out that she hadn't paid payroll taxes in almost a year. And the email my dad said, hey, just so you know, payroll taxes aren't like something where they fine you. Like if you don't pay payroll taxes, you're gonna go to jail. And it was over $150,000 you owed in payroll taxes. And I was like, at the end, it had been an entire year. Every penny I'd ever earned was gone. All my people, my teams, like it just had all fallen apart. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know what to do. And so next morning we got on a flight from Vegas back to Boise. We're flying back to Boise. I get to Boise and I walk in and the call center's empty. All the guys are gone. And there are 2 people that are left. And they said, hey, just so you know, the call center across the road just recruited us and we all just left and we're out. See ya. And they walked out. I was like, oh, I owe the government $150,000. I have nobody to help me sell. Like everything, like I don't know what to do. And I want to quit, like so bad I want to quit. But if I quit, I go to jail. I'd also sold a lot of coaching to people I cared about. If I quit, all these people that bought coaching from me, like I can't help them. That's not right. That's not the right thing to do. I was like, I don't know what to do. So I went to a bankruptcy lawyer. I'm like, how's this work, man? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I gotta figure this out. And he's like, well, kind of explain the whole process. And I told him about my lease. I'm like, yeah, the landlords that are coming after me, like the government's gonna come after me. Like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, the best thing to do is I should come with you to your landlord and just explain you're going bankruptcy. Maybe they'll be nice to you. So I'm like, all right. He's like, do you have any money? I'm like, no. He's like, what do you got in your pocket? I was like, I got like $100. He's like, cool, give me $100. I'll come and I'll tell the landlord you're going bankrupt. I'm like, all right, man, here you go. So he comes with me, which actually is the best $100 I ever spent. So he comes with me to the landlord and he's like, Russell screwed, man. He's going through bankruptcy. He just hired me. He's like, he can't pay you. Like, you can come after him, but he is like, and the guy, there was like this old man, he's just like, yeah, he's done. Like, oh, so bad. Like, so much money. Government's coming after him. Like, oh, you're screwed. Don't even try. And basically convinced our landlord that like it was a useless cause. So landlord was like, all right, be out by Friday. And we had a big space with office cubicles and phones and all sorts of just craziness, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll be out by Friday. But 90% of my team was gone at this point, from 100 employees down to about 7 or 8. The few people that stuck by me, people like Brent Cole-Peters, who, just love that guy to death. He, Brent and John and some of the people back then, Brent had taken a pay cut, a 50% pay cut, and never, it's amazing people. So the few of us that were left, we went and we packing up stuff. We put up ads on Craigslist. Like we got tons of computers and crap coming by it, and things we'd spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for, we were selling for hundreds of dollars. And just to get out of it, we made, I don't know, maybe $5 or $6 grand of all of our crap getting rid of it. We had huge dumpsters just throwing away everything we'd ever created because we had to downsize and trying to figure out how do we get into a smaller building and how do we keep the people we have to be able to fulfill on coaching. But we have to just cut everything else that we have. And so we were downsizing everything, going out, and the night we were moving, like that Friday, we were supposed to be out at midnight or whatever it was. I was sitting in the office and the desks were gone, everything was gone. All I had left was my laptop. And I was sitting there, I remember I had my socks on, I had some Levi's, and I had no money. And I was like, I have to make some money or else we can't even like move into it. I don't know how to do anything. And so I sent out an email to my list I had at the time We had a bunch of people register for a webinar, and I was sitting there in a chair with my laptop on my lap, doing a webinar, praying that something would happen. And that webinar, saved us. Like, that webinar we did made $150,000 in sales over the next 3 or 4 days from that webinar, which gave me the money I needed to pay everyone to not leave, get a new office, get us moved in and get us to stability so we could actually breathe for a few minutes and figure out, okay, what's the next step? What do we want to be when we grow up? And so we downsized from 20,000 square feet to 2,000 square feet. And we had this really cool moment where it was what do we want to do when we grow up? What do we want to be? And as painful as that process was, it was one of the coolest things ever, because we didn't have to keep going on this path. We could pick anything. And this is where I started thinking, who's our dream customer? Who do we really want to serve? What fires us up? What gets us excited? And we started thinking through that. And during this process, we started just creating again and started having some fun. We're what should we do? I had a friend at the time who, he had this little website that was making him $2,000 or $3,000 a month, and he got in some trouble, and I had a couple things making a little bit of money at the time, and he's I need to get rid of this site. Can you pay me some money? So I gave him $20,000. He gave me this little website. It was a little machine that you zap and it gets rid of cold sores. And on autopilot, I was making $2,000 or $3,000 a month. And I was oh, this is so cool. So we had this little thing. I'm that little business just kind of runs. What if we had another one? So we started creating another one. So we did one in the couponing market. We set it up. We got a guru in there and started running. And that started making money. And they're okay, what if another one? We did one in the weight loss and another. And then in a year period of time, we launched 12 different companies. Each were making different amounts of money. And during that time is when we launched Neurocell, our supplement company. All these things were happening. And it was starting to get exciting again. We were creating, we were doing the business instead of teaching the business again, which was so much fun for us to do and to learn and see why does this stuff work in this market but not this market? One of the things that drive me crazy about teachers in my industry is that they come in and act like the marketing techniques that work in one space work everywhere. And I learned during that 2 or 3 year period of time that's not true. Everything's different. There's intricacies that are different in couponing versus business versus weight loss versus diet versus supplements. There's differences, and I came to respect that because we had a chance to do it in so many different businesses and so many different things. And we spent the next 2 or 3 years creating stuff. And during that process, one of the really cool things is I used to go to flippa.com all the time and try to find cool websites we could buy and turn to businesses. And there's a website called championsound.com that was for sale. And it was this little email text message autoresponder for bands. And I was I'm gonna buy that, and then we're gonna take it and niche it for every market. We'll make email autoresponders and text message autoresponders for dentists and for chiropractors. I was so excited. It was $20,000. We didn't have that much money, but I was this is the future of our company. We have to do it. So we ended up buying this website from these guys off Flippa. We get the website and then try to transfer it over to our servers after we paid them the $20,000. And as they're trying to transfer it, they're well, you can't have, and this is the nerd talk, you can't have a Linux server, you need a Ruby server. I'm what does that mean? And they're it means that this is not coded in PHP, it's coded in Ruby on Rails, so you have to have a different kind of server. I'm what does that mean? It means you have to go over here and pay $800 a month for a new server. I'm are you kidding me? I don't have $800 a month for a server, but we just bought this thing, so we did, and they installed it, and it didn't really work. I'm I don't know what to do. None of my tech guys had ever used Ruby on Rails, and so I went to Odesk to hire some guys, and they couldn't fix it, and I tried 5 or 6 guys, and finally I was wasted $20,000. I was so upset and so frustrated because I didn't have that money, and on the way out of the office one day, I was I wonder if anybody on my list knows Ruby on Rails. Shot in the dark, I have no idea. So I sent an email out to my little list at the time. I was subject line was Ruby on Rails, looking for a partner. If you know Ruby on Rails, I'm looking for a partner. And I said, basically, the story I just told you guys, bought this thing, can't make it work. If you know Ruby on Rails, become my partner. We'll make a bunch of money with this thing together. Sent the email out. About an hour later, I get an email from this guy in Georgia named Todd Dickerson. And Todd's hey man, I know Ruby. I'm you do? And then I looked at his picture, I was you don't look like a nerd. I don't think you do. And then I went to Facebook, and I Facebook friend, which was actually 6 years ago last week or something. A Facebook friend, I'm he's got a beautiful wife, he's got a daughter. I'm I don't think he's a coder. I don't know if I believe that. And he's yeah man, shoot me the log and I'll fix it. I was whatever. I had 8 guys try to fix it for the last 4 or 5 months. Nobody can do it. But I'm whatever, here's the login. So he logs it in, and then an hour later, he's okay, done, it's fixed. I was what? He's yeah, I got it fixed. I just did blah, 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 and it worked. I'm dude, how did you do that? He's I just love Ruby on Rails. I'm amazing. He didn't say that, but he's super humble. But I was dude, this guy's amazing. And I was okay, well, I have these other things. And so Todd came, and we started working on this other project we ended up, we had a different auto webinar. Todd built out the software behind the scenes, which was like ClickFunnels version 00, like pre-everything. And he built this webinar, auto webinar software, because Mike Filsame had been talking about auto webinars. Rich Sheffrin had put a webinar report out. A couple guys had been talking about auto webinars, and nobody had done one. Like, nobody was really doing them. So Todd custom built this whole platform so we could do them. We launched an auto webinar through that. And in that auto webinar, we made $1 million in 90 days. And the first thing I did from that First thing I did from that $1 million, I took the money and we paid off the IRS. And I was like, I'm free. Oh, I'm free. I'm not going to jail. IRS is paid off. All the fines are paid off. And that auto webinar funnel literally saved me, literally gave me freedom. Like, up to that point, every night when I went to bed at night, I was just like, they could come knock on my door. Like, I have not paid payroll taxes in that long. And that webinar freed us. And we kept doing thing after thing. And what was fun is with Todd, and Dylan used to design half of these things, just as like contract. He'd design these pages, then Todd would take them and code them up, make these funnels. And he did funnel after funnel after funnel. We had 15 different companies, but within those companies, 2 or 3 funnels. So probably had like 40 funnels we built over after thing after thing after thing after thing. And the last funnel we actually built the old school way was the Neurocell funnel. And that's one of the ones that blew up really, really big and started making tons of sales. We're having a bunch of fun with it. And about that time is when Todd was like, hey, we should really create something so I don't have to keep making websites for you every single day. And that was where the idea came for ClickFunnels. And so we started that project in front of a whiteboard like we talked about yesterday. We mapped out this whole thing. And Todd went to work to build ClickFunnels. Then we partnered with Dylan to build the editor and the UI. And then fast forward 7 or 8 months later, we came and we were like, this thing is going to change the world. And I was so excited. I was like, we're going to do a free trial. And I think the very first month, our goal was to get 10,000 members the first month. I'm like, this is going to be the greatest thing in the world. So we put out there, we created the first funnel, had all this stuff in there. It was a free trial. We had a bunch of people all lined up to promote it. We launched it. It was like crickets. People came and then they left. I was like, dude, do you guys not understand what I'm giving you? Like I made that page you're looking at. Like, it's really good, right? Nobody got it. And I was like, why didn't they get it? I'm like, there's something wrong with my messaging. So we changed the funnel again, and then we launched it again. Like few of you guys signed up, but that was it. Like, most hit it and they left. I'm like, and I tried again. We tried again. We rebuilt that funnel not once or twice or 3 times or 4 times or 5 times. It was 6 times it took us before the ClickFunnels funnel worked. And the 6th time was because one of my friends, Mike Filsam, invited me out to his event, and he's like, hey, Russell, I want you to come and sell ClickFunnels. I think it's awesome. I was like, dude, Mike, nobody's buying ClickFunnels. Like, we got to figure out our next deal or figure out something because it's not working. He's like, no, dude, my people need it. You need to come speak on it, but you got to sell it for $1,000. I'm like, it's a free trial. Nobody even wants it. All right. And so Mike's event was happening that weekend, and I was literally sitting in my office watching the event streaming. As I was sitting there, I started writing my webinar. And I had my slides open. I was following the perfect webinar script that I had been working on for like 10 years. I started filling in the blanks, started making this webinar like true to the perfect webinar script. I literally was like watching it, adding the things in while I'm watching Mike's event happen. That day I finished the slides. Next morning I jumped in a plane. I flew there. We got to California. I think it was California where the event was at. Got there, put the slides up on the thing, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And I started it, and the title slide was my weird niche funnel. It's currently making $17,947 per day, talking about the Neurocell funnel and how you can ethically knock it off in less than 10 minutes. Showed the first slide, started going through, and when we got to the end, we got to the stack and the close, we did it, and 30% of the room jumped up and ran to the back, jumping over the tables, fighting to get back there. I was like, we did it. That was the message. That was the key. Now I know how to sell ClickFunnels. We took that message, we went back, and as a lot of you guys know, especially in the circle members, we started doing webinars every single day, sometimes 2 a day. One time I did 3 in a day, which was really hard, over and over and over again. I did that webinar live over 70 times over the next year and a half, and went from being a startup with no members to year after the end of last year, at over 10,000 members. After this year, we have over 30,000 members, and it's continued to grow and grow and grow. And it was that one funnel that changed everything for me. So this process for all of us, you guys, is an up and a down. Like, it's always happening. And all of you guys are somewhere in this wave right now, right? Some of you guys are at the top riding it. Some of you guys are at the bottom in the crash. Some of you guys are somewhere in between, and it's always going up and down. But if nothing else, of this event, like, I wanted you guys to all understand that, like, no matter where you are, there's hope. okay? It might not be this funnel. I can't tell you how many funnels flopped. I guarantee I have failed at more funnels than anybody else in this room because we tried over and over and over and over again. But because of that, we found out what worked. And the only way to do that is to do it over and over and over again. And it's a lot easier now. I promise you, it's so much easier than what we used to do when poor Todd and Dylan had to custom code every single thing every single time. Like now you guys can test things really, really fast. First time I met Trey, first call, I said, Russell, I'm gonna launch a funnel a week every single week. And I watched the CD launch a funnel and another funnel, another funnel, another funnel. And he had some marginal success, little success, more success, more success, more success. So I saw him launch a funnel last year, one funnel, boom, and within 90 days, became the biggest selling funnel in the history of the world. I was talking to some of the guys at Affiliate Summit. They said there's never been a funnel that's made more money in a shorter period of time than one of Trey's funnels. Now, I'm not privy to share all his numbers and his stats, but it was insane. And it came from him doing a funnel a day, or funnel a week, till he hits the one that just explodes. And you don't know what that's gonna be. It's important. That's why this tool is so important, because you can do that, you can test, you can try over and over and over again. All right, now I wanna do something really quick before we break for the hackathon. So, how many of you guys are excited about the new Expert Secrets book that's coming out? So the inner circle has been kind of privy to a lot of this stuff, and so I've been sharing things with them as I'm writing the book, and like as I'm having epiphanies, I'm like Facebook Living their inner circle group, like, check this out, you guys, look what we just figured out, and like freaking out, and they're having so much fun. And so 2 weeks ago, I wanted, some of you guys know we moved into a new office, new ClickFunnels headquarters, and half of the office is office, and half of it is like this event room we created to do inner circle meetings, certified partner meetings, and things like that. And it's turned out insanely cool. And so 2 weeks ago, I was like, I want all the inner circle members to come, and I want to take the book, the Expert Secrets book, and I want to go through a process over 3 days where we go through step by step in this book. And not only are we just going to talk about things, we're going to talk about it, we're going to workshop it, and then we're going to, like, at the end of it, like, have created something. And we're going to create the perfect webinar, slide by slide by slide. And we did this process over 3 days. How many of you guys were at the FAT event, by the way? All right. So it's called the Funnel Hackathon event, FHAT Funnel Hackathon. And Dan Usher made an amazing video kind of showing the experience. I want you guys to see a really quick video showing you guys what happened behind the scenes of this event. You guys want to see it? Yeah. All right, let's watch the video real quick.
ClickFunnels, 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 ClickFunnels. Like, again, so cliche, but it's a f***ing game changer.
Funnel Hacking Live is the one event that you need to be at. Having the skill set of knowing how to build funnels is the single most valued skill set.
I think there's a difference between watching it done and actually doing it yourself. I would say that that's the main difference.
Funnel Hackathon is super 100% hands-on. It's literally, here's what we need to do. Now we're all gonna do it together. Like there's none of that when I fly home tomorrow, because it's done.
This event is most suited for people who want to accelerate their story to the market.
You're really developing something. You're leaving with something very tangible.
This will give you the right mentality to be able to succeed no matter what industry.
You know, when you have Russell around you all the time, all of a sudden, things don't seem unrealistic. It's just like, I can do this.
You enter his world where he is, and you can just see him in action. And the great thing, that action is within your business.
It's nonstop. I mean, we were at it from 9 a.m. to midnight, just learning, implementing, sharing.
It's so cool that I'm gonna leave with a product that's going to make me a lot of money.
And here it's like a totally safe, vulnerable space where you can just be like, I suck at this stuff. What am I supposed to do here? And then you have guys who have done exactly what you want to do, or have done 10 times anything you've ever thought of, right there next to you saying, hey, have you thought of this? Do you think that would work for you? And you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. I should start doing that. I learned more in that compressed period of time than I had in almost the 2 years of being inside of ClickFunnels.
I would pay any amount of money if I could come back and do that every month or two.
So if you're looking for an opportunity to work with amazing people and work under the guidance of somebody who really knows what they're doing and be able to get things done, it's unbeatable.
If you hate money, then this event is not for you, because it's just gonna get you more money and you're gonna make an impact in the world doing what you love most.
All right. So really quick, what I want to share with you guys is, so we did the FAT event for the Inner Circle members. The room only holds 50 people. We have 100 people in the Inner Circle. And I've committed to them that I was going to do another event because the other half that weren't able to come. Because of scheduling conflicts with some of them, basically to get all of them to be able to come to the event, we're doing 3 more fat events. And they're coming up over the next 3 months. And right now there are 50 inner circle people who are in there between these 3, which basically leaves, to fill up each of the events, there's basically 100 spots that are open. So if anybody of you guys are interested, I don't want to hard sell this at all because that's not what it is, but if any of you guys are interested in taking the hackathon we do tonight and actually coming to Boise with some of the inner circle members and going through that experience, it's 3 days in our office. We're not just talking about stuff, we're actually doing things. Like we literally open up PowerPoint, we go slide by slide by slide by slide, and when you're done, the entire thing's finished. And it's one of the most amazing, cool experiences in the world. How many of you guys would want to be one of those 100 people that are coming and sitting in on the event and being part of it? All right, cool. So if you guys are interested in being part of that, as we go out to the hackathon tonight, my staff will hand you one of these. If you're interested, I'm going to be down there, our whole team will be down there, and let us know. And this has more info on what it is, how it works. And if you're interested, we'd love to have you guys come to one of our fat events. Like I said, there's 3 that are coming up. We'll have the dates and times coming up soon. But if you're interested, grab one of these on the way out. Come down to the hackathon downstairs, ask any questions, and we'd love to have you guys in Boise hanging out with us if you're interested. So with that said, what I want to do is we're going to break. And one last thing I don't want you guys to forget. Everyone come down to the hackathon downstairs because you're going to get your t-shirt as well. With that said, we'll see you guys down there here in a few minutes. You guys.